Now, talking about
It's a good
exceptional
question.
wine. Now, Ken and Tony, did you get the G4 as well?
I tasted the G4 in McGill last week, yeah.
There we go. So Ken got sent a bottle of G4 at home. So, Peter Gago's clearly off all our Christmas card lists except for
The benefits of age.
Except for Ken and Tony. Well, maybe. Okay, fair enough. It could be a last vintage, let's be honest. So
I think Jenny's got more to worry about living in Victoria.
Now we don't talk about that. So tell us, Ken, tell us about G4, because a lot of people would have no idea what it was.
I've got to say, I was a bit surprised when all of the stuff arrived. It came in all these cartons
In
and
a
stuff.
container.
Pretty close. Poor old courier was running back and forth up and down the hill. And he brought in this thing, and I thought, why have they sent a Magnum? I don't need a Magnum to taste it. It was like the Russian doll. You just keep opening. They had so many layers of protection. It ends up in this beautiful wooden box, everyone numbered. Anyway, this thing comes out. It's as heavy. It is one of the heaviest wine bottles I've seen. The punt, you can see the punt goes right up in there. G4. Basically, a few years ago, some may remember they released G3. And they didn't tell us a lot about G3. It was 3 vintages of Grange. I think it was the 8, 12 and 14?
Yeah, something like that.
Not 4. It was. This is the 16. It was 8, 12 and 14, I think. And so G3, Grange 3, a blend of 3. It's non-vintage, obviously, because of that. They wouldn't tell us percentages, but they would say every vintage contributes a significant quantity in the sense that everyone's at least 10%. I thought that was a very good wine. I mean, I forget which Grange it came out with, but I remember I preferred the Grange.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good wine, but not, and it was $3,000.
I agree.
So there were only 1,200 bottles. Anyway, this time what was interesting was Pete was saying it's the second wine in the trilogy. They didn't tell us that the first time, but so they're doing a trilogy. Next year, they intended to release G5. Whether that happens because of the virus, who knows? But that'll be 5 different vintages of Grange. G4, it's 2,500 bottles, 4 different vintages of Grange, $3,500 a bottle. 2, 4, 8, and 16. Again, at least 10% of each. So the 16 is obviously out of barrel. The others are bottles that are tipped in. And look, it's obviously for the markets other than people like me and most of us here. It's for offshore at that sort of price, $3,500.
Speak for yourself, Ken.
Yeah, I'm sorry, of course. I should have you on commission. I thought, and I think it is a significant step up on G3 to me. If you look at the vintages, 2, 4, 8, and 16, it's got 4 of the great vintages.
It's no afterthought, is it?
Oh, overall, if I had to, look, I gave it 100 points as well because I thought it was just so fascinating, so interesting, so good. I didn't give the G3 that at all. I can't remember what it was, but it was down on that. Probably I would have, if you had to put fractions after that, I would have had the 16 Grange purely as a wine, the proverbial bee's appendage ahead of it. But this one, what it's got is, because of those older vintages, you get that almost an extra layer of complexity. You've got some maturity almost in it as well, although it's still as fresh as you can imagine because of that 16. It's got incredible length, the structure, the silkiness. It's some of the, shall we say, slight criticisms that were offered to the 16 are probably not there because of that extra age has allowed all of that to dissipate and the good stuff to come through. Again, this wine will age for ages if you wanted to do that. I mean, I don't know what people are buying it for. Are they buying it as a collectible? Are they buying it to drink? Are they buying it for presents? Who knows? I suspect I'll never see another bottle, but it did hold up over a day or two. I can tell you, it was drinking absolutely beautifully the whole time through.
With Spag Bowl, it was just like absolutely perfect. What about you, Tony?
Yeah, I agree again, Ken. I thought it was a very, very special wine. Look, what do you say about a wine like this? It's a curiosity. It's a It's an experimental thing. It's an artistic license thing. What is it? I mean, 4 vintages. It immediately breaks rules that we all think are in our head about what a wine, has to be when you're talking about elite kind of winemaking. But the thing which this wine blew me away was that having the 02 and the 04 and the 08 in it allows the time of those wines, that allows the maturity of those wines to come into this multi-vintage blend. So what you see is, what you might see when they're young wines by themselves is quite a tight, closed wine that you have to wait for many years to come alive. Well, now we see this wine that has all those in it, and the fruit has lifted and come alive over the time that these have been in the bottles. One thing interesting to point out, this is blended from the bottles. This hasn't been 2002, 4 and 8 that have been sitting somewhere in a tank under gas or anything for 15, 20 years or whatever it is. These are bottles that they've, opened and put into the blend. Yeah. So, Ken.
No, sorry. What I was going to say, I think Aaron appreciates some of this. You think of Krug and Bollinger. Bollinger in the sense that you've got the bottles going in as though they're reserve champagnes to go in. And you've got these, it's like using an awful lot of reserve material in an incredibly complex champagne. And you've got the foundation, the base vintage, if you like, is the 16, and then you're using these others as well. Yeah. And I mean, I know Peter is very close to the guys aside from his own Tino champagne, he's close to the guys at Krug. And you can see, even though it's obviously nothing like a champagne, it's got that relationship. What you said about it being breaking all the rules, you're not expecting it. It has been. You look at Vegas, Sicilia do Unico. Chapudia used to do their Le Pavillon as a non-vintage, but when I think it's Michel, when he came along, he hated that, and so he stopped it. But the old ones I saw, I thought were just fantastic old wines.
I think I agree. I mean, for those who are highly built into the wine culture, and we do know that these multi vintages do occur. But this is obviously a show highlight. It's a showstopper. If you're into baking shows, you'd say bring out your showstopper. Well, this is it. When I was tasting it with Peter in McGill, I talked to him about that element of that thing about the fruit coming alive, and he described it as the fruit has been liberated out of those bottles. Somehow it's been trapped in the bottles, and in this particular blend, it has been liberated. He also says it's a very counterintuitive style of wine because of exactly that reason. I just thought it was a very approachable drink. You kind of have no idea what to expect when you drink something like this, but I thought it was incredibly delicious. I thought it was a much better wine than the G3, like you can. I was like, for G3, it was what it was, but this has got something at a much more elevated level of beautiful winemaking in it. I just wanted to say also, I thought it was really fleshy and delicious and pretty and all those things. One thing I wanted to say also in my notes, I'll just read them out, is one thing I wrote, I don't think there's any need to point this wine. I just don't understand how you would point this wine, but, at 100, sure. I don't have a problem with it because it is actually a really delicious wine. I just hope that those bidding for it on the global market, I just hope they actually open the bugger and drink it because it is so beautiful to drink. And they just don't simply have a bottle on their shelf to brag about it or to, show it off, because it's simply a really delicious wine, and I really hope people get to see it and drink it and taste it, because it is something really special, and that's all I've got to say about it.
I think that's a bit of a teaser for everybody to go out and buy a bottle. Buy one at penfolds.com.
2,500 bottles, so double the volume of the G3.
Yes.
and an extra $500 on the price range. It doesn't matter at that level.
Did Peter tell you much about what they're thinking with G5?
No, it's. I think it is definitely. It's interesting. I did speak to him today, in fact, and he said he wishes that he could have the volume in stock of the 1978 range, because he would love to put that into one of these blends, but he doesn't have anything like the volume. I mean, you can obviously. I mean, he opens these older, the verticals of these all the time, so he knows what they would bring to a blend like this. But I mean, there's obviously got to be, it raises all sorts of questions about how much Grange is there sitting in the back in the Nereid for in the Barossa stores that you can open up bottles and bottles and bottles of it. Each of them double digit at least. So yeah, like you said, minimum 10%. So who knows what the makeup is. I actually asked
46 packs.
Yeah.
40 cases minimum.
I asked, tell me today, and he said I'm not allowed to.
No, he's not. Look, he told me that there'll be just a slightly elevated production of G5, not much. Beyond that, of course, he wasn't saying anything. And I said, well, if I'm allowed to sort of speculate, I would speculate 2018, given that it's such a great vintage for Penfolds, will be the base. Now, he didn't confirm or deny, but I'm still guessing that. The other thing I'd speculate is he loves 10. We all know he loves 10. We haven't seen that used yet. What do you reckon the chances are that appears?
We will see.
Yeah.
Be the oldest one, yeah, possibly.
Who knows? I mean, I got no idea.
Well, I think that's a fantastic preview you've all provided to the wines, to the Penfolds release wines, which come out obviously 23rd of July. So I just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you all for giving up your time. Jenny Port in Melbourne, Aaron in Perth, James about 5 minutes this way in Marrickville, Tony at the mouth of the Murray, Kenny in Vegas, Vegas, and Melissa next to me in the inner west of Sydney. Thank you all very much for coming. Kenny, as always, has the last word.
No, I don't want the last, but I'm just going to duck you because we get these cheat sheets and stuff, and they give some fairly flowery descriptions at time, but they've never, ever topped.
I think this is the perfect way to finish, Kenny.
Take it away. I'm sure you've all read it.
Take it away, Kenny.
This was apparently overheard. Petrichor aromas graduating to silkworm-eaten mulberry leaf.
Oh, fuck it.
I did look up Petrichor, but I forgot what it was now. Absolutely no idea. Silkworm-eaten mulberry leaves. What if something else eats the mulberry leaf? That is priceless.
Peter Gago, poet in residence at Penfolds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angus.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Angus. See ya.
All the best.